welcome to this edition of the newspaper show right here on ET Now. I'm Cheryl D'Souza. I'll take you through the top stories as they're on the Economic Times as well as the Times of India. So let's get going with the top headlines as they're in the Economic Times this morning for you. And first up, it is Piramal taps Apollo Global for fundraise. Zerodha selected as the startup of the year. GVK gets nod to start talks with investors. MNC banks to oppose current account rules. You have big banks and cash-rich companies. Best bets, that's the word coming in from Raamdeo Agarwal. No new corporate stress this year is the word coming in from RBL Bank. Vodafone idea to pay interest after moratorium ends. Soon household survey to capture migrant data. Upset with the rift, Sonia Gandhi offers to step down. And as a Trump card, Modi features in campaign ad. All right, and those are the top headlines for you this morning. Let me shift focus now on to what are the top market headlines is there in the Economic Times. And first up, it is Nifty September rejig to push up its valuation. Consumer finance rebounds near pre-COVID level. Banks need to invest in tech, data analytics. That's the word coming in from Chief Economic Advisor. Angel Broking IPO to hit street only in October. And Fed's virtual retreat may stoke animal spirits. And on from market to corporate headlines then, you have company incorporations hit 7-year high in July. Tata Motors and talk for tech funding tie-up. Auto companies open bookings before launch. Cola makers ask for sin tax exemption. Lastly, Wipro makes $1 billion bet on cybersecurity business. All right, and those are the top headlines as there in the Economic Times for you. But let's shift focus on to the top story. And here you go, you check the paper, and here you have the ET Startup Awards winners. And who's the one who's bagged the Startup of the Year? And that is the brokerage firm Zerodha. So it's a high-powered panel picks 9 winners from a shortlist of 45 companies. The technology-backed brokerage firm Zerodha has won the top prize at the 6th edition of the Economic Times Startup Awards 2020. Adjudged Startup of the Year at India's most coveted awards for entrepreneurship. Zerodha has joined the list of distinguished winners that have displayed the potential to go on to becoming a blue-chip corporation. So a high-power jury, which was led by Rajesh Gopinathan, who is the CEO and MD of TCS, selected 9 winners that included Zerodha as well for the Startup Awards from a short list of about 45 companies at a virtual meeting on August 20th. He and his fellow panelists, founders, chief executives, as well as of Indian, as well as international investors, picked businesses that actually showcase the resilience and tenacity needed to stay the course through the toughest of the phase. So Zerodha has been selected as the Startup of the Year at the Economic Times Startup Awards 2020, and that is indeed the top story that's there in the Economic Times for you. But let me now shift focus on to another story that's there on the page 1 of Economic Times, and this is relating to Piramal Capital. And Piramal Capital is in talks with Apollo Global to raise $500 million as per Economic Times. That the final structure of the deal is being finalized, but what are the details and the contours of it that's reported in the Economic Times? I'm joined by my colleague Pankaj to take us through the story. Pankaj, good morning. Take us through the story on Piramal Capital that's there in the Economic Times front page.
An interesting story, Cheryl, that of course ET has reported is that Piramal Group, which is led by the Piramal Capital, is in talks with Apollo Global. Of course, needs no introduction. Apollo Global Management is one of the world's best asset management company to raise about 500 billion. Piramal will raise this money by pledging a part of the developer loan portfolio. This is what sources familiar to the development happening have told the Economic Times. The select portfolio of loans will be offered to Apollo Global has already been been carved out. Both entities are currently working on how the deal will be executed over the next few weeks. It's a very, very interesting development considering markets are opening, how things are happening on the NBFC side. With this sort of a move coming in as loan portfolio of secured funds, maybe pledged by Piramal. It will be an interesting deal, in the NBFC pack. We also had Indiabulls numbers coming out. The management will be joining us. So there'll be some interesting key takeaways as to how the things are moving since 2018 mid or since the IL&FS crisis. There has been, some sort of issue as far as, these portfolios are concerned. So let's wait and watch how different managements are approaching it in different ways.
All right, Pankaj, thank you for taking us through that story. Let me shift focus to another story that's there in the page 1 of Economic Times. And this is a story my colleague Vivek will be joining in shortly to talk about. And that is about GVK gets a nod to start talks with investors. NIIF, RDR, PSP agree to carve out. Move would facilitate discussions with Adani Group for MIAL, that's Mumbai International Airport Limited. To talk more on this, I'm joined by my colleague Vivek. Vivek, take us through this particular story. Looks very interesting. The GVK has got a nod to start talks with investors. What does it actually mean for the company, and what sort of talks are they going to start with the investors?
Well, good morning. So the first thing that we need to keep in mind is that the GVK group is actually looking to sell a particular amount of stake in MAIL, that is the Mumbai International Airport Limited. But before they could do that, or before they can go ahead and complete this particular deal, there's a whole set of investors from whom they would actually require approval. And this set of investors are the names that you took, the consortium of India Sovereign Wealth Fund, that is NIIF, also Abu Dhabi Investment Authority,
Vivek on this particular story, but the entire gist of the story is that GVK has got a nod to start talks with other investors. NIAF, RDR, PSP have agreed to carve out to promoters of GVK. The move facilitates discussions with Adani Group for Mumbai International Airport Limited. Let me shift on now, focus to page 11 of Economic Times, and this is on the PVR. Remember that you had the cinema chains that were impacted the most due to the lockdown, as your cinema halls are shut and they've also not been able to start. And you have this exclusive interview coming in from PVR, and that is Ajay Bijli, who is the chairman and managing director of PVR. Is hopeful of a resurgence in one of the worst hit sectors due to the pandemic once the government actually allows the cinema halls to reopen. He said that the disease outbreak has shown PVR that they will have to diversify, as it can't rely on a single revenue stream, but expansion remains on track, is the word coming in from Ajay Bijli. He also said that the shutdown won't change film going habits and that the company is ready to welcome patrons. He's saying this, and I quote, that for Indian consumers, movies have always been a staple form of entertainment and they love to go out and watch films. He also said, I don't think that the 5 or 6 months of being deprived of it is going to change or undo the habits of decades. That's the word coming in from PVR. He's also saying that they've realized that PVR will have to diversify as it can't rely on a single revenue stream, but expansion remains on track. That's the exclusive interview coming in from Ajay Bijli from PVR in Economic Times. Let me shift focus now on to another big voice, and that is Raamdeo Agarwal. Page 7 of Economic Times, that's where you will find this particular report. And very few investors have actually managed to successfully weather as many stock market cycles as Raamdeo Agarwal has, armed with lessons from watching, failing and learning at the coalface over the past 3 decades. The veteran investor and co-founder Motilal Oswal Financial Services has his investment game ready for the post-COVID phase. This time his bets are on the cash-rich big companies in every sector that will likely nudge out their smaller peers over the next few years. So Raamdeo Agarwal is saying big banks, cash-rich companies will be the best bet The ones with capital will have a huge pricing power. He's also saying barring HDFC, ICICI, Kotak and Axis, most will actually struggle. He's saying heydays of multiplexes and travel will not return soon. And aviation may recover faster once normalcy returns. That is the word coming in from you have veteran investor Raamdeo Agarwal. Now let's shift focus on to consumer finance. And consumer finance is one of the biggest drivers of sale and has made a comeback and is slowly inching towards the pre-COVID levels as a share of total transactions. To talk more on this story, I'm joined by my colleague Poonam. Poonam, good morning. And looks like that consumer finance is slowly and steadily getting back on track.
Oh, yes, Cheryl, good morning. In fact, yes, it seems to be getting back on track. In fact, if you look at the kind of numbers that we are seeing, 40% of the electronics and smartphones sold this month have been already financed. Consumer finance it has been one of the biggest drivers for sales for many, and this is now seeing a comeback. It will probably even see and reach pre-COVID levels sooner by the festive season itself. The report does mention that financing has touched 40% of the total sales of electronics and smartphones in the month of August. This stood at nearly around 20% in July and 10% in June. And sources from banks and NBFCs expect this to reach pre-COVID levels of 60 to 65% by October itself, which is the festive season. We're seeing that Mr. Ambut Chandana, President Consumer Assets at Kotak Mahindra Bank, says that with progressive relaxations in the lockdowns, they are seeing a rise in demand for consumer electronics and appliances, especially in the categories which are now considered necessities like laptops, tablets, dishwashers and washing machines. And Cheryl, we have already seen this, that yes, these all categories have seen a huge demand, especially during the COVID times. About 70 to 90% of the retail borrowers have opted out of the moratorium on their existing loans as cash flows are improving and confidence is also seeming to return. In fact, if you look at the overall details of the story as well, Kamal Nandi, business head at Godrej Appliances, also mentions that there were a lot of issues on financing and popular schemes like zero payment, no-cost EMI had disappeared after the lockdown. These now seem to be returning shortly. So yes, I guess, Cheryl, we are seeing a good traction there, slowly and steadily as the economy opens up. Consumer finance is likely to reach pre-COVID levels by festive season of 60 to 65% itself.
Right, Poonam, but hang in there. There is an exclusive interview of the HDFC Bank CEO designate, and that is Shashidhar Jagdishan, in the Times of India business page as page 11. And what is he talking about? All geared up to head the bank soon.
That is true, Cheryl. In fact, there was a conference call which was hosted by Macquarie, and there, Mr. Shashidhar Jagdishan, who's the CEO designate right now of HDFC Bank, has stated that the bad loans on account of the COVID would be below what was seen during the global financial crisis. Now, this is a very, very important point that he is making, because do note that there has been skepticism around that retail assets or retail loans would be badly hit on account of COVID. And this statement coming in from Mr. Jagdishan right now, that the bad loans may be lower than the global financial crisis, is important. He also said that the bank is geared to grow its loan market share from 9% to 15% without diluting credit standards by tapping the top end of the rural and semi-urban market where they have built distribution capability. And to know that, Cheryl, they have also built a huge amount of capability on their digital platform, and probably they will be ramping up that in order to gain further market share. He said that part of the bank's strategy to scale up was to implement digital banking too, where the company has built capabilities of its existing digital platforms and also collaborate with them for customer acquisition. He said in the future, the bank's customer will be able to use the lending ecosystem for everything, right from purchasing a car to healthcare, where the company could stitch together a network of clients and service providers. In fact, Mr. Jagdishan also responded to the queries on auto loan controversy. And therein he stated that media reports on delayed reporting to the credit bureau and the call to investors by Rosen law firm, which was seeking to initiate class action proceedings in the U.S. He admitted that there were auto loan lapses on the part of certain individuals. And having said that, he also mentioned that those individuals were offering a GPS to a fraction of car loan customers. It is just that there were people who could have done it in a transparent way. However, he does say that we are always kind on operational errors, but there are two things, which is one is integrity and one is a lackadaisical attitude. And sadly, this time it is the later part. In fact, he also mentioned that if you look at the overall details, the pre-provision operating profit is 3.7% annually for them, and as a percentage of the average assets, there's a massive earnings power sitting in them to even digest credit cost to the extent of 5% of loans in a single year and not still make a loss. So this is an important point, Cheryl, very intricate details given in the conference call by Mr. Jagdishan.
Right. Thank you, Poonam, for taking us through in details what HDFC CEO designate had to say in that analyst call. Let's focus on to page 10 of Economic Times and talk about Tata Motors. And Tata Motors is starting talks for technology and funding tie-up. So Tata Motors has started preliminary discussions for technology and funding tie-up, even as it kicks off a transformative process to get its domestic PV business back on track. This is an exclusive interview that Economic Times had with Sailesh Chandra, who is the President, Passenger Vehicles Business Unit of Tata Motors. He's saying that the focus is to build on an agile organization that is more accountable and able to generate free cash flows within 2 years to support the future growth. He's also saying that we have started some preliminary engagement, but it is too early and will take its time. What shape the collaboration will take is too early to say. We will finalize then that when we get the right partner, is the word coming in from Sailesh Chandra, who is the President of Passenger Vehicle Business Unit of Tata Motors. So this is a big headline coming out of that particular exclusive interview that he had with Economic Times, that Tata Motors has started talks for technology and funding tie-up. The focus is to generate free cash flows within 2 years to support the future growth. So that is a big headline coming on the Tata Motors for you. Let's focus to another story that's there on the page 7 of Economic Times, and this is talking about Angel Broking's IPO. It's been held up due to COVID-19 setup that is set to, it is actually being held up by COVID-19, and it is all set now to hit the street in October. The SEBI has issued a final go-ahead for Angel Broking's IPO proposal in July last year, after the Mumbai-based brokerage settled a code of conduct violation case by paying 32 lakh as a fine. So Angel Broking's IPO held up by COVID, set to hit the street in October. 300 crore rupees via fresh issue of shares and 300 crore rupees via an OFS is what we're looking to raise. IFC, that's the arm of World Bank, holds minority stake to raise 156 crore rupees via OFS. So that is about Angel Broking. The IPO is all set to hit the street in October. All right, now let me shift focus to the top 5 headlines that's there in the Times of India for you. And first up is that key CWC meet today as Sonia insists on quitting. Moving on, you have India's deadliest week, but COVID growth slows. Passenger vehicle sales are in a free fall. Chorus to defer entrance exams grows. And Pakistan imposes sanctions on Dawood and Lakhvi. All right, and those are the top 5 headlines that's there in the Times of India for you. And with that, we are out of time. This edition of the Newspaper Show. Thank you for watching. But before I wind down, here's a special segment for the hearing impaired.